بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله سيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين ورحمة للعالمين وصلى الله على آله الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أوصيكم عباد الله ونفسي بتقوى الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. In today's khutbah, I would like to again go to the theme of the importance of political engagement in this part of the world for the Muslim communities. We have talked about it many, many times, and I would like to relate it to one incident of this week. When we talk about political engagement, we are not talking about the public relations exercise or just giving opportunities to the politicians who come here and have picture opportunities, which they can use on their websites, and at the end of the story. No, we basically have to engage in what is known as a smart involvement. We have to basically do it in a very organized manner. On the general level of the Muslim community, it's important for us to pay attention to the elections, to the party policies, and even to the candidates in our own ridings, to know what are their views, what are the inclinations, and what they support, what they don't support, so that when we cast our vote, which is our civic right, we do that in an informed manner. But not only that individual and general manner, I think it's also important on institutional level to get involved. And this is where we need and we should be supporting the initiatives which have already been done by the community in Canada. For example, you have this Canada Muslim Vote. And their mandate is basically to create awareness among Muslims about the importance of getting involved in voting process. They also equip the Muslims so that they can know more about the candidates in their own regions, in their own ridings. And so they do the background check and everything, and we get the information. So the tools are already there as far as creating this awareness is concerned. Then we have another organization in Canada known as National Council of Canadian Muslims, and they basically play a different role. They basically play the advocacy role to defend the rights of the Muslims in different situations. And these organizations are basically essential parts of the Muslim community in Canada. We have to remember that we as a Shia community cannot do any of these activities on our own. We are a minority within a minority. For these issues, there is no choice but to join the larger Sunni community. And alhamdulillah, when it comes to the issue of Canada Muslim Vote as well as NCCM, the Shias and Sunnis have been working on this together. It's important to realize, and this is what I've been saying for many, many years now, that we cannot live in isolation. As the saying goes in the political circles, that either you are at the table or you are on the menu. And then you sit down and cry, oh, this law has come, this decision has been made against us. Well, where were you? When the process of decision making was there, you should have been involved there. And that is where we talk about this issue of involvement. Just one example of importance of these organizations that I mentioned. On Sunday last week, Quebec government passed Bill number 21, This is a provisional legislation. And this is basically a bill which talks about respecting the secular nature of the province of Quebec. And what they are actually doing is basically banning people who wear religious symbols from holding a variety of public sector jobs. So even if there is a lady with hijab, she can no more work in their public schools because she will be coming into that position with what they consider to be the religious symbol. Or you talk about, becoming a police officer or prosecutor, any public position or job, you will be, barred from it. It's not only the issue that this bill, which has been supported by the present provincial government of Quebec, will seriously curtail the freedom of Muslim women who wear hijab, as well as the Jewish people who wear the kippah and the Sikh community who use turban. So it's not only Muslims, it's basically going against the minorities in general. And when we look at the law, it is going to increase and fuel the Islamophobia, which is already there, Islamophobia in Quebec. We saw this incident of a person coming into the mosque and shooting and killing people there. Even it will increase the issue of anti-Semitism and other form of racism. And this is where I'm saying that these institutions are important when I talk about National Council of Canadian Muslims, because people like me and the community in general, when we hear about these things, we will condemn it. And we will say this is wrong, which is important to do that. But then it is basically institutions like, organizations like NCCM who get involved, and they basically play their advocacy role. Just next day after that, the National Council of Canadian Muslims, along with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, filed a legal challenge to the Quebec court to stay the application of this bill in Quebec, contending that this is unconstitutional and it will harm the religious minorities. And this is just one example I wanted to share with you, that it is important for us individually as well as collectively to pay attention to these issues, because this is our watan, this is watan of our children, and you cannot live in isolation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the wisdom and the courage, to fulfill our role in the best manner, inshallah. إن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله العزيز بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا هو العطوف للعباد بجوده والعواد على المذنبين بحلمه ونشهد أن محمدًا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين ورحمة للعالمين صلى الله عليه وآله الداعين إلى سبيل الله بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة قادة الأمم وأولياء النعمة ومعدن الرحمة أوصيكم عباد الله بالتوبة عما سلف من ذنوبكم. This is the month of Shawwal. We just ended with the month of Ramadan and the fasting. And I'm sure, in your studies, in discussions and the talks that you must have been attending in different centers, the spirit of fasting has been mentioned again and again, that the purpose of fasting was لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can strengthen the power of taqwa which is within you. When we talk about taqwa, this is a very important tool of guidance. It is the inner guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gives to us, provided we can preserve it and protect it. Taqwa will only protect us if we protect the taqwa. In the words of Amir al-Mu'minin, he says taqwa is not static. It can go down, it can go up. It will help you or protect you provided you protect it. And one of the areas where this becomes the issue of taqwa, righteousness, piety, becomes very essential is what I call the gray area. There are certain things which fall in the clear area. It is black or white. We know this is halal or this is haram. There are no issues there. The problem starts in what is known as the gray area. Is it okay? It is not okay. Shaitan, when he approaches the believers, he knows in the gray area, he knows he is clear. Even if he goes wrong way, he knows he is committing a sin. Shaitan attacks the mu'mineen and mu'minat, the believers, in the gray area. And this is where we have to be very careful. And when he attacks, he actually puts, the concepts and ideas in a very presentable form. Quran uses the word, zinat. That shaitan takes the issues which are not good and presents it in a very, beautiful form. Don't know, it's okay. And since we are talking about taqwa, and inshallah Dhul Hijjah is coming close by, let me just narrate to you one part of the history about Ibrahim alayhi salam, Khalilullah. When he was taking his son Ismail, based on the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is there in the Quran. That's not hadith or tariq. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him that you have to slaughter your son. He saw this in dream, and remember the dream of Anbiya are not like our dream. As I said, it's not after biryani. It's based on the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when he saw the dream, he sits down and talks with his son. That this is what I see. Ara anni adhbhuka. I see in the dream that I am slaughtering you. What do you think? And this young lad, of course, he is also a Nabi. He says, O my father, the wordings of the Quran, do what you have been commanded to do. Insha'Allah, you will find me among those who are sabirin. This is an imtihan that Allah is putting you and me, and we'll go through it with sabr and patience. And so now Ibrahim is taking Ismail to Mina. That's where you do the sacrifice. And this is where shaitan now comes in form of an old man. So he says, Ya Ibrahim, ma turidu min al-ghulam. Ibrahim, what are you doing with your son? Where are you taking him? And he says, well, uridu an adwahu. I would like to do dhibah, do sacrifice. This is where shaitan now becomes a very pious person. Shaitan will never come and say, I'm shaitan. The language will change, the style will change, the presentation will change. He says, Subhanallah, تَضْبَحُ غُلَامًا لَمْ يَعْصَ اللَّهَ طَرَفَةُ عَيْنٍ. He says, Ibrahim, Subhanallah, you're going to slaughter, a lad who has never ever disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at least even shaitan knows Ismail, a young one, is still ma'asum. Our people still have a problem, whether the Anbiya were ma'asum or not. Because he says, Lam ya'sallaha tarafatu aynin. Not even for a blink of an eye, he did not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have such a righteous son. Are you going to slaughter him? And Ibrahim says, Inna Allah amarani bidhalik. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded me. Now look at his style. Shaitan says, رَبُّكَ يَنْهَاكَ عَنْ ذَلِكَ. Ibrahim, your Lord forbids you to do such thing. إِنَّمَا أَمَرَكَ بِهَذَا الشَّيْطَانِ. This command that you think is not from Allah, is from Shaitan. And not only that, now he puts a very sensible, logical, rational argument behind it. He says, Ya Ibrahim, innaka imamun yuqtada bika. Ibrahim, you are a leader of people. People follow you. وَإِنَّكَ إِن ذَبَحْتَهُ ذَبَحَ النَّاسِ أَوْلَادُهُم. If you slaughter your son as a sacrifice for God, your followers will sacrifice their sons for the same purpose. So look at the very convincing way of, misguidance, all in the religious, terminology and style. And this is where we have to realize that when we talk about taqwa, that is the power which will guide us in the gray area. When it's haram, it's haram. When it's halal, it's halal. It's the gray area we have to be careful. And shaitan approaches in different ways. And this is where, when we talk about this issue of the gray area, this is where we need to seek guidance of those who are not only firmly rooted in the religious knowledge, but also the people who are of good character. And that's why taqwa and adalat becomes an important requirement for religious guidance. It's not just an exercise of finding the best expert, knowledgeable person there, because this is the problem of how shaitan approaches the gray area. The Imam of Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, in a statement which is part of the khutbah, the sermons of Nahj Balagha, khutbah number 38, Amir al-Mu'mineen talks about what is shubha. The term shubha in Arabic means doubt. And this is what I'm saying, there are things halal, there are things haram, then there is the gray area. You are into shubha, you don't know. Is it halal, it is haram or not? And then Amir al-Mu'mineen says, why is doubt known as shubha in Arabic? إنما سميت الشبهة شبهة لأنها تشبه الحق. A doubt is known as shubha in Arabic because shubha, shabih. Shabih means something which resembles something else. He says a doubt is known as a doubt in Arabic because it looks like haqq. So it's shaitan who puts a wrapping on that batil, and the coloring and the design on it is of haqq. فَأَمَّا أَوْلِيَاءُ اللَّهِ فَضِيَاعُهُمْ فِيهَا الْيَقِينُ وَدَلِيلُهُمْ صَمْتُ الْهُدَى. And so when it comes to those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in cases of shubahat and doubts, for them their yaqeen in their deen and madhab becomes their light of guidance. And the direction of their faith becomes their proof to move in that direction. Amma a'da'ullah, those who are enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they use the shubha and doubt as a means of misguidance, and that is also for them, this is blindness. And this is where we have to realize that, when we talk about this concept of taqwa, it is indeed a very important element. And we always have to keep away from the shubahat which come in the gray area. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to be among the true followers of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad salawatullah alayhim ajma'een. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وعلى إمام المتقين وأمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى سيد شباب أهل الجنة الحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء عليهم الصلاة والسلام اللهم صل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام اللهم صل على مولانا الحجة بن الحسن صاحب العصر والزمان ما أحيا آثار البدء والطغيان هادم أمنية الشرك والنفاق حاصد فر البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام ما اتصلت الليالي والأيام اللهم عجل فرج وسحل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه اللهم اجعلنا ممن يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.